Okay, so you say innovation is important in your organization, but do you reward effort or outcome? Welcome to Thank God It's a Story Saturday, a weekly video series where I share stories with you that you can use to make your messages connect. Today's story is a story that I first heard in a podcast by Stephen Dunbar called Freakonomics, and the story goes back to 1963 when late Jack Welch was only 27 years old, but already a PhD and head of manufacturing for a new plant manufacturing new plastic. In his role, he decided to he made a decision that he would change the chemical composition to produce this plastic. The next thing he knew, he's sitting in his office and boom, there is an explosion, there's smoke everywhere. And he says, my heart just sank. And I thought, have we injured anybody? Do we have people who are now injured? And he says, thankfully that didn't happen. The reactor did what it had to. It just went through the roof. The next thing was, who's going to tell the big boss? He says, my boss wanted me to go and tell his boss as to what had happened. He says, I sat in my Volkswagen and I drove the longest night and the longest drive of my life. I reached my boss's boss thinking, I don't know what will happen. Maybe I'll be thrown out of the job. But my boss's boss, Charlie, was a sweetheart. He called me in and he asked me questions like why it had happened, what could I do differently, and then just get on with my job. He says it wasn't like, I was getting scoldings, but he wanted this to become a lesson for me to learn to do better things in future. And one of the biggest things I learned in that moment was that when someone's down, you don't pull them even further down. It's when people try to become very, rise in their glory and become a little bit arrogant and all, that is the time to pull them down. That was the point then. But when I listen to this story, there is another little lesson on innovation here, and that's the one I want to surface today. When I heard this podcast by How I Built It, in which Alphabet CEO Sundar Pichai is having a conversation with Guy Raz, Sundar Pichai says if you want to build a culture of innovation, you have to reward, award, acknowledge effort, not just the outcome. Because to innovate, it takes a lot of effort. A lot of things go wrong before one goes right. Now, please, my point is not that go blow up factories and kill people. My point is that when people make mistakes in an effort to do something big and great, you must reward, award, acknowledge, and celebrate that, because that's what innovation needs. Stay storied. I'll see you here next Saturday with another story.